good. That moment where you export the crunch and realize that you exported like the main slate in the early slate. It's just zero IDs everywhere.
Always nice when it isn't last minute.
Yeah, it helps that I noticed that now. I play so little in like early slates and stuff that I default to seeing 7 o'clock or 7:05.
I wish I wasn't playing this one.
I'm like, live? Good? Yeah, give me, I don't know, 10 seconds. Just pressing upload here. I just want to make sure I have dummy lineups in. All right, yeah, I am ready. And we are live. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock version 1. We'll have another one later today. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by PrizePicks, and we've got a 6-game slate to break down. Solid early slate, 6 games, more than enough in my opinion. We're not just grabbing 3 and going, so we'll be able to break all of that down. Before we do anything, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. That would be helpful too. Adam, how goes it?
What's up, man? Looking forward to doing a show. Live before lock with me is pretty much always a dumpster fire because something's going to go wrong and I'm going to stop talking and it's going to be all you. So I hope you're looking forward to it.
I am always looking forward for me to be on camera and talking with no one else involved. So I have no problem with that at all. How did last night end up for you?
Absolutely brutal.
Okay, good. Me too.
Got destroyed. I was pretty spread out. The Dodgers ended up being where I really took a stand, played a lot of them. That went miserably. Pitching wise, it was fine. I was well under the field. Like Cease was my highest owned pitcher, but I was still like half the field. But then I was over on guys like Michaelis, that did really well. I don't remember anymore who else did well, but pitching worked out. I was a little bit over on Bassett. But yeah, Dodgers killed me. Had some Atlanta, didn't have enough St. Louis. Also was interesting. At least as of the last time I looked, which I think was very close to the end of the slate, the best 5-man stack I think ended up in 3rd place on DraftKings.
Oh, interesting. I didn't look at anything.
It was like a 3-3-2 for first and then just like random shit for second.
Which isn't all that surprising.
No. For one, you and I have kind of talked about it. I sort of think on DraftKings that that stacking lighter is kind of an interesting strategy. I just haven't really had the balls to do it. But also when you see a slate break down like that, where it's just like, the Cardinals are doing well, but Goldschmidt has 40 something points and Contreras has 35 points. And you just have like so many different guys from different teams with a ton of fantasy points. If you're running 5-man, 5-3 or 5-2 stacks, you're really limiting how many of those different combos you can get. So it wasn't really surprising to see last slate work out like that.
Yeah. The bigger the slate gets, if there's going to be 15 games, you're inevitable, and the contest is big enough, you're inevitably going to get like lineups that might not necessarily be lineups you would normally play go to the top because of the lack of stacking. The number one lineup won with a 3-3-2. The second lineup had no stack whatsoever. And lineup number 3 had the 5-man. So
yeah, I think I started getting a lot of Atlanta stacks after that.
Atlanta, St. Louis in some sort of order. A Padre sneaking in there from spot to spot. I didn't realize, holy shit. I didn't realize Tyler Mahle put up 47 DK points.
That was the other one. I knew there was another pitcher that I was overweight on that did well.
9 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 12 Ks.
Did you realize that Michaelis was 1 strike away from a no-hitter?
I didn't know that until like earlier. I saw like one random tweet that mentioned it, and he like hung a curveball or something.
Yeah, damn, I still haven't seen the play. Ooh. Apparently it was like Bader maybe could have gotten it, but it would have been like a ridiculous play.
That is crazy. But yeah, so the rest of this lineup goes Cub, Philly, Ranger, Giant, Red Sox, Met, Cardinal, Astro. Fully unstacked across the board. Had Wilson Contreras, had Rhys Hoskins, which made up 81 fantasy points. Also had Tyler Mahle, which made up another decent chunk. Yeah, like I think there's probably something to just trying to hit like 8 individual bullets.
So here's the thing that I keep coming back to also. And for anybody watching this is kind of just me thinking out loud. Like, don't adjust your strategy based on what I'm about to say, because very easily could be wrong. But like, the thing I keep coming back to is as tournaments get more top heavy, and so like tournaments getting more top heavy, so you really just like need first place or you're gonna lose. But you're also not coming anywhere close to breaking even if you don't have a good finish either. So
Yeah.
like back in the day when everybody started stacking, tournaments were flatter. Less people were stacking as well. And the thing about stacking is like everybody talks about it increasing your ceiling because of the correlation. It increases your floor in theory. The nuts, like the absolute nuts, the optimal lineup isn't usually going to be any sort of big stack. It's going to be like a couple guys here, a couple guys there. So the thing that I keep coming back to is like I'm having plenty of slates where I'm losing 80 to 90% while stacking every lineup. So why aren't I just going for the nuts at this point?
There's probably something to that. And I anxiously await us looking through lineup study in like 18 months, like like May of the 2024 baseball season being like, yo, nobody stacks anymore.
Right. Yeah. Like I was DMing with Neil about it the other night because me and him have kind of talked about it. And it was like, I don't want to put everything that I'm thinking on Twitter because not even because I'm trying to hide it. I just it's probably gonna make me look like an idiot. But like I was DMing him stuff because I'm like, oh, he's a smart guy. He'll tell me if I'm wrong somewhere. And he's like, yeah, no, everything you're saying makes sense. Like, so I don't know, but it's one of those like I don't have the conviction yet to do it. Like I'll do it one slate, get murdered, and then just go back to stacking to get murdered again. But at least I feel good about it because I got murdered the same way everyone else does.
Maybe I'll do it. Seems like an interesting experiment for the process show at this moment. So let's let it rip. I got 150 going today in like a tiny ass mini max for the early. So stacks be damned. Goodbye, stacks. We'll figure it all out on our own. Look, we got plenty of time, so that's why we're mildly shooting this shit here. We still have 58 minutes to go before lock. We still need.
So Sean V Stan account. I think this is an interesting point too. He said with the heat back, do you think stacking is more viable? I think the cold spring had an impact on lack of stacking working a bunch earlier this year. I think the opposite. If you're gonna take an approach where you're not stacking, it's because you expect there to be a lot of home runs from different teams. So the more total home runs you expect on a slate, the less likely stacking is to really be optimal. When teams, back when the ball was dead and teams are scoring like 5 runs and that's winning you a slate, I thought stacking was clearly best because you're just not going to find home runs anywhere. So why not just try and get the team that, lumps together a bunch of singles, doubles, and RBIs? But if you're going to have, multiple guys from different teams hitting 2 home runs in a night because the ball's flying and the weather's warm, to me, that makes it more appealing to just chase home runs.
I'm pulling up now. I just bucketed everybody in last night's $15 by stack type. Only the people that 150 max, because obviously we're going to see a lot of no stacking for people that are playing like single bullets and stuff. So the people that actually 150 maxed, it's primarily aggressive stacking, like clear across the board, which makes me wonder, is there enough of a gap there? Because the lack of stacking is pretty stark. Like there are 9,000 different examples of lineups. Like there are 9,000 lineups played by people that 150 maxed. 3184 played a 5-2, 2943 played a 5-3, and 1602 played a 5 blank. So that's 7729 of 9,000 played a 5-man stack. That's 86% of all lineups in the $15 were a 5-man stack yesterday.
And that's actually another reason that it kind of interests me to not do it is, in theory, the 150 maxers are the best players. And so like
I haven't even mentioned like 4-4s and 4-3s, which are also very practical stacks, not even just 5s. 86%.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like what I said to Neil was, let's say you're talking about a 20,000 person tournament or whatever. And let's say you happen to be on the, 2 or 3% stack that hits, you're still competing with so many raw lineups, even if it's 2 to 3% owned, that just have 5 guys from that team. And at that point, you're just flipping like one-offs or 2-mans or something. So I don't know. In my head, in theory, it makes a lot of sense to kind of zig here, but I haven't really had the balls to do it.
So I added in 4-3 and 4-4. I would say that is like the most I would want. Like if we just want to say these are stacks, legitimate stacks, 93%.
That's wild.
It can't be like I'm taking. This is, you're hearing it now. Pay attention to the process show moving forward, Monday through Friday. The new experience that we're looking at. stack free. Stack free on, I'm not avoiding stacks. I'm not creating stacks, because we're talking about, that's what we're talking about right now. We will naturally be stacking lineups, but we won't be forcing stacks. That's where you're looking for. Like, you're not going to you wouldn't actively like force no stacks.
No, not at all. It's not like there's negative correlation in a stack.
Right.
And I mean, even if you just do something like running 3-mans or something, like, I don't know. It's just, I think that there's a decent chance, at least, that the pendulum's finally swung far enough where there's an advantage in not doing it.
Well, I just ran
DraftKings specifically too, because the scoring.
Yeah, it's different on FanDuel. Yeah, maybe it's
right,
certainly more appealing on DraftKings.
Right. I mean, like, obviously, if you can just grab a bunch of home runs on FanDuel, that's still good. But with runs and RBIs being weighted more, there is just more. There's more correlation on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Wow, this really flattened me out. That's crazy. So my number one lineup sorted into a, let's see, 3-man Twins, 2-man Marlins, 2-man White Sox. So like, yeah, you're still gonna get some stacking. This is going to be a very interesting experience. I think now, though, we probably need to go ahead and dive into this slate. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good.
Have we got any lineups in the last 5 minutes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out. We don't have an ownership projection on this guy pitching for San Francisco, so I'm trying to figure
out. He did not show up at all in my crunch, so go ahead and type in 1% if you'd like, and feel pretty good about it.
Like, I have him being optimal 17% of the time.
Really? Well, we'll have that conversation, I guess, because I don't have him projected like that. 15% K rate via Steamer.
Yeah, we have him projected really high, which is weird.
I have him at call it 10 fantasy points.
Yeah, that seems better to me.
I could probably get to like 11 or 12. I was probably a little pessimistic on his innings projection, but
yeah, no, I'm gonna go ahead and wait. What do you
need? We got time. This is an easy slate. We got 6 games to get through. People are going to get a lot more out of us just shooting the shit.
I wonder how many times I've messed this up.
Probably a lot.
So I had him projected. I had him in with our projection being 16.6 DraftKings points. The reason was that the other day when Luis Garcia pitched and Luis Garcia hit, I had to like hard code Luis Garcia's projection. And I thought I had gone back and changed everything, but apparently I haven't. So I wonder what pitcher yesterday I had projected for 16.5 points that shouldn't have
been. You got to go back into rewind and find out, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into this slate if you are ready.
So yeah, something like that.
Phillies and Marlins, 5.2 run implied total for the Phils, 4.3 for the Marlins. Kyle Gibson and Daniel Castano. Castano pulling no ownership, or at least doesn't appear that he's going to pull any. He's the flat 4K, probably not going to need that salary either. Gibson, on the other hand, is basically the most most owned pitcher. Actually, no, that has moved in our most recent update. Second most owned pitcher behind Zach Gallen. So where do you land on Gibson? I think he looks pretty good, and the price tag certainly works.
Yeah, I mean, only a 6-game slate, so certainly more willing to get to pitchers like Gibson that are just solid options. Ownership is high, but looks like one of the better pitchers on the slate as well. Decent matchup. You know, Miami's been an above average offense, but there are some strikeouts there. Gibson's not a great strikeout pitcher, but does typically do a good job of limiting damage. And kind of, as I mentioned before, pitchers like that just become a little bit more appealing as slates get shorter because the opportunity cost isn't as high and you can be more willing to go to guys that you only have 20 to 21% strikeout percentages. And on top of that, only a 7K price tag.
Yeah. On my crunch, I'm actually getting to a bit less than the field on Gibson. I think I'm fine with that, given where the ownership is. I kind of just prefer a little bit more Gallen and a little bit more Garcia, but on a per dollar basis, it's pretty easy to get to Gibson here. And I don't know, the Marlins lineup's good. It's probably as good as the Phillies, if we're being honest, but Daniel Castano probably opening things up a bit. Do you think you get to Castano just because of that 4K price tag?
If I do, I don't hate it just because he is 4K, but I don't think it's going to be really necessary. Like hitter pricing hasn't been that tight. You have a 7K Gibson, you have a $7,900 Velasquez. You have just, it's not like this is a slate where you have like great pitching to pay up for. Gallen's only 8,500, Castillo is only 8,200. So I doubt that I really need to get there.
Okay. Let's talk then about, we'll start on the Phillies side. I guess they are more owned than the Marlins. They were, the last that I pulled it, they were second in our stack score, third in ownership, and the third overall top stack. When I ran my crunch, the Phillies were my second most exposed team, although honestly, Twins, Phillies, Giants, Astros, all looking very similar for me. How are you handling the Phillies against Castano?
It seems like a good spot. Ownership should probably be there. Right now we have 15% ownership on the Phillies, 14% top stack percentage. They have a lot of right-handed power. The park's good for power. The lineup looks fine. Schwarber and Harper certainly are not guys that you worry about in lefty-lefty matchups. Hoskins and Castellanos have plenty of power. No JT Realmuto weakens the lineup a little bit, at least in theory, not having the best season, but he's still somebody that typically pulls up my exposure to Philadelphia because of his eligibility at catcher. He's not in the lineup. But you do have Alec Baum hitting 6, which is nice. So Philly looks good to me.
Yeah, I'm happy to get there. I'm basically neutral to the field on Philly right now. They are, like I said, or like we said, second in top stack score. Could just as easily be first, could just as easily be third. Those are all very similar numbers, but they have the highest likelihood of being the top value of those top 3 teams. So take that for what it's worth. Who would you say is your favorite Phillies bat for today?
So yesterday I was kind of torn between Hoskins and Castellanos. I went Castellanos. Hoskins scored like 100 fantasy points. I'll go back to Castellanos today.
Castellanos looks great to me. Hoskins looks great to me. Both guys low 4s, getting that righty lefty matchup. Ownership is already on both of those guys. So if you wanted to tell me that the answer is for you is really like Alec Bohm for 3,300 at third, I think that's a pretty reasonable take. And he is half the ownership of the rest of these guys. What about on the Marlins side of this one? Jazz Chisholm, the only guy that's really getting any ownership. The Marlins are 9th of the 12 teams in aggregate ownership. And again, most of that ownership is going to Chisholm. Everybody else is like 1/3 of him. I don't think the Marlins look great, but they become significantly more appealing based on Gibson's ownership.
Yeah, the ownership makes it a little bit more appealing. Like you said, Jazz Chisholm certainly looks good. He's got plenty of power. But Miami is a decent, a decent offense. They're not a team where when you look through the rest of the lineup after Chisholm, they're not a team where you're just naming guys that you're really excited to get into lineups individually. But they do just have good enough hitters. They have a 104 WRC plus, a 161 ISO on their active roster. Guys like Garrett Cooper, Soler, Aguilar, Sanchez, Garcia. All these guys have enough power and they're pretty inexpensive. Where getting a positive park shift going into Philadelphia against a popular pitcher as a stack, I think they make sense. Individually, it's pretty much Chisholm that I would be most interested in getting to.
Yeah, when I aggregated the WRC plus for both teams, they're equals at 109. More power in the Phillies lineup, but these offenses are not all that dissimilar. They're just spread out in different ways. How much do you weigh that sort of leverage against a pitcher? I'm not looking for a number, obviously, but how much of a role does that play in your lineup decisions?
A minor one. Okay. Because it is something that I think is accounted for in other ways as well. Whether you are using raw ownership, whether you're using leverage, whatever metric you're using to account for, teams being relatively low owned, they're naturally going to get some sort of a bump just because they're not going to be that popular going up against a popular pitcher. But I do, especially in large field tournaments, factor in at least a little bit who they're facing as well.
Okay. Your anticipation would be getting to more Phillies in this one, but
yeah, most likely.
Nothing too crazy on the Marlins. I have the Marlins. I'm actually a little bit over the field on the Marlins. Basically holding hands on Chisholm, but over on Aguilar. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I kind of expect that to be the case for me as well.
Okay. Anything else we should touch on for Phillies and Marlins?
No.
All right. Well, here's a minute and a half for you to do whatever you need to do. Let's talk schedule and content for today. And guys, don't forget, you might still see Awesemo.com around here and Awesemo logos on the screen, but we are now Stokastic. You can get to the website at stokastic.com, Stokastic. Got to practice reading that out because I have a sneaky suspicion it's going to show up in promo codes in the near future, and I'm going to need to know it. But anyway, schedule for the rest of the day. Coming up after this at 1:30, we have the No House Advantage NBA show. I don't know what that's going to be based on. 5 p.m., we've got the MLB Deeper Dive. So for the main slate tonight, we're still coming back with a deeper dive. We've got MLB Live Before Lock at 6. We've got the PGA Live Before Lock show coming up at 8. Make sure you're watching that one too. U.S. Open kicking off tomorrow. One of the best tournaments that we're going to be able to sweat and watch and play DFS for. So I love it. I hope that you guys love it too. So make sure you're watching that show. Free content today. MLB main slate ownership is free, as is our PGA Top Golfers tool. Moving on to game number 2. Tigers and White Sox. This is a 110 start. 4.6 run implied total for the Tigers, 4.4 for the White Sox. Alex Fado for Detroit, Vince Velasquez going for the White Sox. Neither guy really pulling any ownership. Fado's at 5%. He's 7,600. Velasquez is 3% owned, 7,900. Just on paper, I have a little bit more interest in going to Velasquez. I just don't know how necessary he's going to be, but I'm surprised to see his ownership be as low as it is on a 6-gamer.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. You know, it's not that he's a great pitcher or anything, and there are certainly better options on this slate. He's not overpriced, but he's still only $600 less than Gallen, $300 less than Castillo, $900 more than Gibson. You know, you can see why he wouldn't be pulling a ton of ownership, but the upside's certainly still there. He's going up against one of the worst offenses, actually the worst offense so far this year in baseball in Detroit. He's got decent strikeout stuff, always has. This year, he's at 21% with a 4.5 xFIP. Certainly not anything you're excited about, but if he's not going to pull much ownership here, and, right now we have him with a 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher and only pulling 3% ownership, that's a pretty decent spot to pivot in tournaments, I think.
Yeah, just simple to get to and decent enough matchup. What about Alex Fado on the opposite side?
Chicago's been pretty underwhelming this year as well. Fado's another one that I certainly isn't going to stand out as a priority here. He's a former highly regarded prospect who sort of fell off, but he is relatively stretched out. He's thrown at least 80 pitches in 6 straight starts. He's not projected for much ownership, only about 6% with a 14% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So kind of the same play as Velasquez to me. I think between the two, I'd give a slight edge to Velasquez because of the matchup, but very, very comparable in terms of guys that I'm not very comfortable with, but that aren't getting as much ownership as they should either.
Yeah. I think we're probably both in the same spot. When I just run my normal crunch, I end up over the field on both of these guys. I'm a lot over the field on Velasquez in comparison to 3%. I'm just slightly over on Fado. From a hitting perspective in this one, White Sox second most aggregate ownership. The Tigers are 6th. So let's lead off with the White Sox here. How are you feeling about Chicago taking on Fado?
It seems like one of those spots where the pitcher is not great, the offense isn't great, but one side sort of has to win out. Right now we do have Chicago going a bit over owned though. They are projected to be they have the second highest top value percentage on DraftKings, which obviously is good. It's going to help them get into lineups, but also projected to be the second highest owned team. 10.5% chance of being the top stack, 14% aggregate ownership. Their lineup looks like it normally does. 1 through 5, it's decent. After that, it pretty much falls off of a cliff. So at the current ownership, I probably don't get to as much as the field, but they do offer some value. You have a $3,800 Pollock leading off. Vaughn's hitting second at $4,100. Moncada at $3,300. You have a $2,300 6-hitter and Adam Engel. So there is some value there if you need it.
Yeah, I have no real issue getting to the White Sox, but I am under the field at that current ownership. Nothing too crazy. They are my 6th most owned team. That they're obviously second in ownership. So I am coming in a bit lighter and I'm comfortable with that. What about the opposite side of this one going on against the Tigers? You don't get any real benefit for Vince Velasquez ownership. So there's no leverage there. Tigers aren't great, but boy, oh boy, are they cheap.
Yeah, they're really cheap. They have the highest top value percentage on the slate, about an 8% chance of being the top stack, about a 9.5% ownership share. So pretty similar to the White Sox, I think. Not as appealing in offense. You just really have a horrible lineup top to bottom. Early on in the season, I kind of thought they might surprise some people, but just none of these guys have really stepped up and come through. And so even though there's some name value in guys like Austin Meadows and Jonathan Scope and, obviously Miguel Cabrera and Torkelson, like you just really haven't seen anything from these guys. So pretty difficult for me to get to, given that they are getting some ownership and, Velasquez isn't getting much.
I actually have basically the exact same amount of Tigers that I do White Sox. I'm, I guess, fine with that. Like, as I look at our top stack tool, Detroit, smack dab in the middle. It's rare to see the top value team be a positive leverage team too. I feel like generally when you see that top value metric and the team is still like relatively highly ranked in top stack, that you see them become more of like an optimizer team and you sort of lose that leverage. I think it is interesting to see that Detroit is positively leveraged right now. So I'm happy with the exposure I have there, and I'm happy to be light on the White Sox.
Keep in mind, they're only positively leveraged because we changed how we calculate that.
What do you mean?
We started factoring in value when in our leverage percentage or our leverage.
3.5. Are you sure?
Yeah, there was a thing about it until like.
Oh yeah, holy shit!
I don't know.
8.2 minus 9.4 is so. It's what threw me off was when I did the math. Like the math is basically the same, other than rounding, but it's positive instead of negative.
Right.
So like top stack is 8.2, ownership share was 9.4. I was like, no, I'm seeing 1.3. Like it's the same number. You're wrong, but it's the opposite direction.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, to your point, it's still unusual for it to be that close when you're talking about the top value.
Sure.
And that mostly just speaks to how nobody's going to want to play the Tigers. But
good shout. I totally forgot about that.
But yeah, that's why it comes out as a positive leverage now, which I do think was a good change, because like doing my tournament plays videos, it would always just be like, oh, well, I'm just recommending teams that are impossible to get to because they're horrible values. So it was a good change, but yeah, that's why.
Obviously, you don't know the answer to this yet, but given the way that these teams are set up, do you have an anticipation of who you're going to get to more
between these two teams?
Yeah, it seems sort of like a crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess the White Sox just because they're a little bit more appealing. Like you don't have any version of Luis Robert or Jose Abreu on the Tigers.
That is true. Austin Meadows, baby.
Yeah, he fell off quick.
Jonathan Scope, just like Lou Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have anything else here for Tigers and White Sox.
Neither do I.
Okay, we'll go to Rangers and Astros. Have I gotten the ability to get those lineups yet? Rangers and Diamondbacks, I believe, are in, but no, I don't. Rangers and Astros. 3.8 run implied total. Ooh, that's a very aggressive porn bot in chat. No whores, they say. No whores.
Oh, man, I'm sold.
I mean, that makes me want to not go there, but 3.8 run implied total for the Rangers, 4.8 for the Stros. Tyson Miller going for Texas. Don't roster him. Luis Garcia going for the Astros. Just make sure you roster the correct Luis Garcia, I guess. I have Luis Garcia as the second best pitching option on the slate. 9,200 today. To me, it's just a little bit easier to get the Gallon at 8,500. But talk to me about Garcia. Where are you going to land here?
Yeah, he just seems pretty. When you factor in the salary, he seems pretty comparable to me to guys like Gibson, Castillo. It's a decent matchup against Texas, but he is a bit more expensive. You always have a little bit of concern with him with how deep Houston will let him go into games. But if he's pitching well, you're typically still going to get enough pitches for him to be a solid option, especially on a shorter slate. 88 pitches last time out, 91 the start before that, 85, 81. So on bigger slates, it can be tough to get there because he doesn't give you that same top tier as other pay up options. But on this slate, I'm not really concerned about that. It's more so just that he is still expensive than these other pitchers that look pretty good as well.
I feel comfortable saying that you're not going to get to a single share of Tyson Miller.
I don't want to go that far, but probably not.
Like, I think that all of the other guys, like Castano, I think is better and $1,100 cheaper. Like, I don't think the other guys are all that interesting. He looks awful as far as I'm concerned. So dead last in our top pitchers tool with a 0% chance of being a top 2 pitcher.
Yeah.
That's why I felt pretty comfortable saying probably not going to get that guy at all.
Yeah,
he's up to 0.1% now.
So like in the crunches that I'm running right now, where I'm just generating a bunch of lineups, he's showing up in like 7% of them, which is the lowest of any pitcher on the slate. So yeah, chances are he just gets kicked out once I start choosing lineups. But Yeah, good chance that I don't get there.
Astros are 5th in aggregate ownership, 5th in our stack score. Seems weird in a matchup against Tyson Miller here, who's not going to get really any love. The Astros are, at least in my opinion, very clearly the best offense on this slate. I don't think that salary is too big of an issue. I want to get to more Astros than what's showing here. I'm surprised their ownership is as low as it is.
Yeah, I think they look really good. Yeah, they're not the same level of value as a lot of these other teams. But like you were saying, I just don't really think it's going to matter that much on this slate when, you can just kind of choose whatever you want from these mid-tier pitchers. Even if you don't want to go with the popular ones, you have Faedo, you have Velasquez that you can get to in that price range. If you're only spending 14 or 15K on pitching, it's going to be pretty easy to just get whatever stacks you want and then, fill it out with either cheap one-offs if you have to. But I'm with you. Like, it's not that they're not getting ownership, but it's only a 6-game slate. We have them projected for less ownership than Philly, than San Francisco, than the White Sox, slightly less than the Twins. Not that I dislike any of those offenses, but Houston against some random minor leaguer is certainly a spot that I would like to be at.
I know that it's just, I was really surprised to see it, honestly. Just seemed kind of like a no-brainer that they would be owned more, and then they aren't. I'm over the field on them, so I feel pretty comfortable saying that I'm going to continue to be over the field on them for the next 25 minutes or so, or 35 minutes, I guess it is. Favorite Astros bat?
Yordan Alvarez / Kyle Tucker.
No complaints there. Yeah, I don't have anything else to really add. Yeah, those guys are good. The whole damn team's good. I mean,
oh yeah, they're so good.
WRC plus for the first 5 batters: 134, 123, 142, 159, 155. Pretty damn good. What about the Texas side of this one? Do you see any value in getting to Rangers bats? Do you see any additional value because of that Garcia ownership?
The Garcia ownership certainly pushes them up a little bit. Still not sure that it's enough to really get to them too much, but they do have a pretty appealing, at least like 1 through 6. Semien, that off to a bad start this year, but Semien, Seager, Garcia, Calhoun, Jonah Heim at catcher is always pretty appealing. Nate Lowe hitting 6th at 3,100 has some power. So, yeah, like when you factor in the leverage, Texas certainly looks okay. I saw somebody in chat say that they're going to Texas. I don't have any issue with that.
I think it makes on this size slate, it certainly makes some sense. Like, right. I can't.
Yeah, if this were last night, it would just be like, yeah, I'm not going to get that much Texas. But right. Here, there's certainly more merit to getting to them.
Do you have a favorite Texas bat?
Either Seager or Heim, probably, given their positions.
Yeah, those are the 2 guys that showed up most for me in my crunch. Although I will say the Rangers are the second lowest exposure team for me. I'm basically not getting here. So a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've got Luis Garcia in 3/4 of my lineup. So the amount of Rangers that I can get to is pretty limited to begin with, but I can see the path on a slate of this size. I just don't think that I'm actually going to be getting there.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those where, like, if I doubt that I get to a lot, and I'll actually have a better answer in a minute because I'm getting my first set of lineups in. But
oh, nice.
It's one of those where, like, I kind of doubt that I get to that much. But if 3 innings in, Luis Garcia has given up 4 earned runs, and I'm just looking at a bunch of Texas stacks at the top, I'm not going to be sitting there thinking like, man, what the hell are these people doing? Like, it makes sense.
Okay. I'm loading in the Cincy lineup right now before I click that I want to run another crunch. Ramos Garcia and TJ Friedel. Bang, got it. That's good. That'll be helpful. I got nothing else for this game, so it's probably in our best interest to talk a little bit about PrizePicks, presenting sponsor of this show. Happy to have them there. You can use the promo code Awesemo, which I believe will probably become stochastic in the future. Use that promo code Awesemo. Get yourself $100 of an instant match deposit bonus, which means if you deposit $100, they will match it with $100. That's fantastic. Just make sure you're getting involved there. You don't have to worry about like sharks or optimizers. You're building parlay cards here. If you build a 5-man parlay and they all hit, you win up to 10x your entry fee. They've got all sorts of different sports. You can get highlight if you really want to, which is crazy. MLB, we've got soccer, WNBA, F1, MMA, all sorts of different things. And you can mix sports if you would like. I'm going to hit Adam with one or two props here, and we'll see where he lands. Kyle Gibson, over under 4.5 strikeouts. Does that interest you at all?
Seems like it's probably about where I would want to be.
Okay.
Maybe a little low.
How about 27.5 fantasy points for Kyle Gibson? FanDuel scoring, by the way.
I was like, what the hell?
Under?
Yeah. I'll take the over there.
Okay. And I'm going to hit you with one more then. Your boy, who we have not gotten to yet, Sonny Gray, 27.5 fantasy points.
Tough matchup, but yeah, I think I would take the under there.
Okay. Guys, check out PrizePicks. Use that promo code. It will be great for you. I promise. Follow Eric because he's been crushing PrizePicks lately.
Yeah, he was talking about that a lot in LA.
It's been going quite well. All right, Diamondbacks and Reds, 3.8 run implied total for the Diamondbacks, 3.7 for the Reds. It's Zach Gallen. It's Luis Castillo. This is going to be the big ownership game from a pitching perspective. Gallen pulling 40 plus. Luis Castillo in the high 30s at this point in time. I certainly like both guys. I prefer Zach Gallen to Castillo. I'm going to have more Gallen than Castillo, but these are going to be two of my three most exposed guys.
Yeah, agreed. Actually, I'm not quite done with it, but in the crunch that I just run, Gallen was showing up the most. And then, Castillo was kind of just like lumped in with those other guys. But they both look good to me. Gallen has certainly been a good pitcher again this year. 23% strikeout percentage, 3.86 xFIP. Not a bad spot against Cincinnati. And then on the other side, Castillo going up against a strikeout-heavy Arizona team. 23% strikeout percentage, 3.58 xFIP. Both guys look good.
Yeah, they really do. Any thoughts on the ownership right now? Like, do you see either of those numbers as problematic? Do you anticipate being over on these guys?
I don't really have an issue with either one. Like, nothing really stands out.
Okay. God, who the hell don't I have in here? Matt Reynolds. How do you bat? The worst. Slowly but surely, like building out the rest of my sheet, but having to get handedness on people that I don't have yet. Because obviously it matters. Matt Reynolds hits righty. Perfect. So now I can run another crunch. All right, let's talk bats here. Not a lot of ownership coming into either side because obviously we're getting a lot of pitching exposure to this one. Diamondbacks in the aggregate were 7th in ownership. The Reds are 11th. Do you see yourself getting to either one of these teams with any sort of regularity?
I don't think I get to either one too much. I do have a lot of respect for both pitchers. And while both guys are getting ownership, I guess if you wanted to go to Cincinnati against a 46% owned Gallen, that is reasonable. Not that it's unreasonable to go to Arizona. Just I think I would probably go to the Cincinnati route first, just because there's a little bit more ownership going to Gallen.
I think that makes some sense. Who stands out to you then in this game from a bats perspective? Like if you were one-offing stuff, does anybody actually jump out? Because we've got guys like Dalton Varsho who are 19% owned right now. That's really the only ownership that's coming into the Diamondbacks. They're owned a lot less in comparison if you just leave him out of it.
Yeah, Varsho leading off at catcher, I think is the obvious answer. Ketel Marte hitting third at second base seems decent. On the other side against Gallen, I guess 4K Votto, but nothing really.
All righty. Grabbing updated ownership, grabbing updated top stacked stools. We've got 27 minutes to go until we get to lock. So we're moving nicely. Phillies and Astros back up into that top 2 spots for top stack. So we've got a lot going on here.
Let's slide it over to Texas in the crunch that I just made.
Tons of Texas.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Texas followed by Houston as far as my top stacks.
Huh. Okay.
I'm going to try and get another one run though, just because half the lineups came out.
Do we need to?
Yeah. A bunch of lineups came out in the last few minutes.
Do we need to work our way back so you can talk about Texas more?
No, it's exactly what we talked about. Like it's the reasons that I said they made sense but I didn't think I'd get there. I'm just getting there for those reasons, I guess.
That's fair. What about Reds bats? We talked a little bit about individual Diamondbacks bats. Is there anything on that side? I find the Reds to be wholly unappealing. They are the one team that I am like not getting to. And again, that's because I have Zach Gallen and
really
everything.
I don't really see anything appealing outside of just targeting against Gallen's ownership.
Right. Yeah, and I don't anticipate doing that. I'm going to have way too much Gallen. It's a tough game to talk about, honestly. Just pitching is very clearly the best options here. Gallen and Luis Castillo aren't exactly priced in problematic ways. They just look really good. And 3.8 and 3.7 run implied totals. These are basically the lowest run totals on the slate. So they're not high likelihood stacks. Let me go ahead and grab this most recent crunch that I have just to make sure nothing new has changed in any big way. We only have 2 games left to get through. We'll take some questions at the end too. How are you looking? You feeling good about your lead up to 105?
No, not at all. Because I have like 30% of that Giants guy who's not even starting.
Well, have fun with that. That sounds like a really good time. Sarcasm, obviously. Let's try and remember to click early slate and Fantasy Cruncher when I export, because even after I reminded myself the last time, I didn't do it. Let's see what we have now. All right, I've got my new crunch run. We're going to refresh that bad boy with all of the updated lineups that we've gotten over the past couple minutes. I'm feeling good about this slate right now. So I assume we're going to get a late scratch at like 104 to really turn the screws.
What I can almost guarantee is going to happen is that I'm going to get my stuff updated before lock. I'm going to go from having Texas as my highest owned stack to barely having them, and they're going to absolutely smash.
They are my second lowest stack. I have 4% aggregate ownership, like adding them all together, trying to get to 800%. I got 4 to the Reds, so not the direction that I'm apparently going. By the way, guys, 450 people in here, 78 likes. Hit that like button. Help us out a bit. Run that number up. We should be north of 100. Astros are my top stack right now. I'm still under the field on the White Sox, so I'm happy there. Gallen, Garcia, Castillo, basically just a 3-man band. Yeah. I'm way light on Kyle Gibson, which is making me feel like I don't have Kyle Gibson going deep enough into this game. So I'm going to give him an extra out just to make that look a little bit better. All right, let's get to game number 5 here. Giants and Royals, 5.2 run implied total for the Giants, 3.7 for the Royals. Sean Jelly?
It's Sam Long.
Sam Long? Wait, you're not trying to tell me like that's how you say it, right?
No. I'm trying to tell you Sam Long is pitching.
When did that get changed?
Got the alert like 2 minutes ago when I said I have 30% of the guy not pitching.
Gotcha. That'll do it.
Like, I assume he's just the long guy here, but either way,
okay. So Sam Long is not anything that we need to worry about right now. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I don't think either Giants pitcher is anything we need to worry about.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're gonna make that Sam Long just in case. Done. Well, let's talk about John Heasley on the opposite side for the Royals, who's pulling precisely 0 ownership. Are you rostering pitching in this game?
No, if I am, it's not going to be much. Like, there's just not the need for value here. I was getting to the other guy that we don't know how to pronounce. I was in the middle of rerunning a crunch to fix that issue anyway. And then they announced that he's not even starting. So I don't really see a need to be getting to either of these guys.
Did you see that Giants lineup is out?
Yeah, haven't actually looked at it, but saw that it came out.
There are changes. Brandon Belt moved down in the lineup. I didn't have Wilmer Flores in, so that matters for me. But there are some changes to at least what I had, which I'm updating now. And these are going to matter because the Giants have basically the top projected run total on the slate. They are 3rd in ownership, 3rd in top stack. I know that you're probably making some refreshes here for the Giants, but how they look into you, because they seem like a team we're going to have a lot of.
Yeah, they look good. Their offense has been good all season long. It's not a bad matchup by any stretch against Heasley. Yastrzemski's good. Peterson, we know, is good. Belt has plenty of power. Overall, they're a team where, like, when you look at the names in the lineup, I don't really know how they're as good as they are, but a 115 WRC plus this year, a 166 ISO, which doesn't take park into account. So it's pretty impressive for them to be, hitting for power, playing half their games in San Francisco. So they look very good to me.
Sam Long have a different name? Nope. Sammy. He is just Sam Long.
It could be Sammy.
It is Sam and Steamer. I was like speaking that into existence there. I just don't have him in my arms database. He is Sammy here. Good shout. Baseball names are legitimately the worst. I hate it so much. Yeah, Giants popping like crazy for me. When I ran my previous crunch, they were 4th in ownership, but basically my top 4 of Stros, Phillies, Twins, and Giants weren't all that different. And the Giants were the lowest owned team, at least for me. So I think I'm going to be a bit over the field on the Giants. Do you have any individual Giants bats that you want to try to target if you're not stacking them?
Belt, Peterson.
Okay. Go ahead and delete that crunch. Let's switch to the Royals side, because this is a team that is 10th in ownership. These guys are just not really getting owned. I mean, even somebody like Bobby Witt at 8%. Is there any appeal here to the Royals as a low-owned team? The only downside really seems to be just playing in San Francisco.
And that they suck.
Well, yeah, that too. But I mean, that's a given.
Right. But no, I mean, Bobby Witt at shortstop obviously is appealing. Perez is a good catcher option. Melendez is fine as a little bit cheaper catcher option. I do like that Michael A. Taylor's hitting second. He's only 2,700. He, is someone that does give you some stolen base upside. So decent price tag for him.
I'm actually going to get to probably more Royals than the field. So I'm okay with this spot. No problem with it at all. This park just is where dreams go to die usually. I assume you're going to get to more Giants than Royals. That feels like a safe bet.
That does feel like a safe bet.
Okay. I don't have much else to really add here other than I'm going to get to the Royals. So join me on the Royals, people. We're going to take some questions at the end of this because we only got one more game to go. Let's get into it now. Mariners and Twins, 3.7 run implied total for the Mariners, 4.3 for the Twins. Marco Gonzalez and Sonny Gray. Let's start with your boy, Sonny Gray, who's in like 30% of lineups, 8,800. How do you feel about Gray? How do you feel about him in relationship to Garcia, who's slightly more expensive, and Gallen, who's slightly less expensive? Both guys slightly owned more.
So it's a relatively difficult spot. Seattle is a decent team offensively, 113 WRC plus this year, 21% strikeout percentage on their active roster. But Gray has been very good. He's got the highest strikeout percentage of any pitcher starting on this slate at 29.3%, 3.09 xFIP. So while the matchup isn't great, I am still certainly interested in getting there. The ownership looks like it is about where it should be, given that he's a bit more expensive than the other options.
Yeah, I'm really not getting to much Gray, which feels like that's going to be a problem in one of those days where Sonny Gray has a reason that you like Sonny Gray day and strikes out like 12 dudes, which isn't currently something that I want to happen, but I'm just not getting there because of Gallen and Garcia. I'm getting to Castillo over Gray. I guess that's the question for me then. Where do you see him in relationship to Castillo?
Given the gap in the slight gap in salary, I think they're pretty similar.
Okay.
Like the matchup, certainly not as good for Gray.
Right. Okay. Well, then let's talk about Marco Gonzalez, who just sort of exists on this slate. 6,500, 10%-ish ownership. Do you get there? Like, should he be more owned in relationship to Kyle? Like, is the gap between Kyle Gibson and Marco Gonzalez really that big?
I think it's pretty big. I mean, it's probably not as big as the ownership suggests, 39% to 12%. But this is a difficult matchup for Gonzalez. He's not a very good strikeout pitcher. You're going up against a Minnesota offense that certainly has plenty of power. I don't believe we have their lineup yet, but you're likely looking at, Buxton, Correa, Sanchez, Urshela from the right side, Jorge Polanco from the right side. So definitely not anybody I have any confidence in. If you were to go there, it would simply just be because he's getting a third of the ownership of Gibson.
I think it's probably a little bit closer than you do. Clearly Gibson ahead, but yeah, 39 to 12 is a pretty sizable gap. I just don't know how much Gibson matters. I got it by 1.8. So even if you want to split the difference and call it like 2.4 or something, I don't know if you get the extra $500. Don't know if it matters. Probably a little too high on Gibson, a little too low on, like if it was like 35-15, it would just look a lot better, and not as extreme as it does right now. but I don't want to advocate too hard for Marco Gonzalez because he's Marco Gonzalez. It's probably not going to get me anywhere. We can talk about bats here, though. Mariners are, at least as of the last time that I grabbed Top Stack, last in Top Stack, last in top value, last in ownership, last in stack score. What's the utility for going to the Mariners here?
Gray's getting 30% ownership. Jesse Winker is, in theory, good at hitting baseballs. Julio Rodriguez is good. I mean, Seattle's been an above average offense. There is some power upside here, but it's, to me, mostly just if you're trying to get some leverage against Gray with an above average offense.
I'm a little surprised to see like how low they are. I'm not exactly getting to the Mariners, but I'm a little surprised to see that they were just like flat last and everything.
Yeah, so was I. Just because of the fact that they are an above average offense.
Yeah. I have
teams like Kansas City playing today.
Yeah, I have a very scattered amount of Mariners. Nothing too crazy. Nothing that I'm like excited to see. Current top stacks are tied Twins and Tigers. So I am getting to the Detroit Tigers. And I think these are going to be my lineups, or at least pretty damn close.
Detroit was tied with Minnesota for your top stack?
Not like in terms of top stack, like in terms of
that's a hell of a downgrade from Houston.
No, exposure wise, not like my rankings.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would be a very untrue statement. The Astros, Phillies are 1, Astros are 2 for me. Tigers are quite a bit behind there. All right, let's talk Twins bats then up against Marco Gonzalez. They are 4th in aggregate ownership, but not grading out all that well in top stacks or in stack score. Is this a spot where you're going to be under the field? Because they look like they have pretty sizable negative leverage.
Yeah, I mean, if they're getting ownership, it's not a spot that I love being at. Like, I do like obviously you like Buxton. Correa looks very good. But Gonzalez is typically pretty solid at limiting damage, even though he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He has been more home run prone this year with 1.7 home runs per 9. I think it's a very high upside spot, but if the ownership's going to be there, then I'm fine going elsewhere like Houston.
Yeah. Favorite Twins bat?
Buxton.
I need to figure out a different way to ask that question.
I was thinking, like, every time it just gets the answer that you know it's going to get.
Yeah.
Like, by far, like, the best hitter on the team.
Yes. Is that true?
Yes.
Correa?
No. Buxton might be the best hitter in the majors right now.
Fair. Who's better, Kevin Durant or Jason Tatum?
Yeah.
Best I could do there. Is there anything else we want to touch on with these bats? Anywhere, Twins or Mariners?
I don't really think so.
Okay. Well, chat, you're in luck. It is 12:53. We have 12 minutes to go until lock. We've taken our lap through through every team, pitching and hitting. Hit us with some questions if you have them. We can sort of open this one up. This is a live before lock show, so we can open up a little bit and kind of do whatever we want until the time we get to lock. So I'm going to go ahead and upload my lineup to get my placeholders in. I think that will help me out tremendously. And I didn't set stacks, so
yeah, I did. So
it'll be a very interesting experiment today. Al, New York City wants to know who your home run pick is. I'm sure you've been poring over that.
Buxton.
There you go. Are you saying Buxton because it was the last name you said?
50-50.
All right, let me look at who's my top 5 guys here. Let's see. Well, Buxton is one of the top 5 guys that I have, so I'm going to take Kyle Tucker.
Also a good one.
I'm aware. I wasn't going to pick someone shitty. How are you doing on your process? How much do you need me to cover the next 10 minutes here?
A lot.
I figured as much. Guys, get your questions in if you can. If you're in premium Slack and you want to ask a question, also do that. happy to answer whatever you guys have. I can go through my exposures right now if anybody's interested. I doubt it, but I'll hit you with everything that I have. Individual bats, which is the easiest thing for me to talk about right now. The most exposed hitter that I have for today is Adam's boy, Byron Buxton.
There you go.
I feel like I need to change that. Now that you said that he's going to go yard, I feel like I should get rid of him. Second most exposed hitter today, also on the Twins, not Carlos Correa. I've got quite a bit of Jose Miranda.
Okay.
I don't really have anything to add there. He's 3K, and he's the only guy on the Twins with an MPE and the only guy with first base eligibility. So I think he's just sort of fitting in very easily. Although I don't have stacks set, so he's just fitting in very easily because he's 3K and has an MPE. Is there a promo for memberships? Travis, there is. You can use the promo code MLB Live. One big word, all caps, 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Sean V. Stan account wants to know for fading Cole today. No. Oh, God. Jeff, 2v2s are so difficult, mostly because I don't even know what team half of these guys are on. Bohm and Garcia or Jordan and Duran. Look, in baseball, the answer is probably both.
I don't even know which Garcia we're talking about.
A Garcia?
That doesn't narrow it down. I'm assuming it's Adolis, but
so am I. Let's see what else we have. Do you typically look at game stack options since positive weather environments affect both teams, or do you just take what you get when you're going through your build process? Depends on the day.
I take what I get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about like, do I actively try to make my stacks change? No. No matter how this process is going, I've never like chosen the teams that I want to stack. Although there's probably a case to be made that that works in baseball.
Yeah, especially, I mean, game stacking around weather, I think is fine. It's just not what I do.
Are you pitching anyone in Comerica today? That would be Fado or Velasquez. I'm barely getting Velasquez. I'm not getting to Fado. I think Velasquez in the largest field GPPs looks like a good play. He just doesn't appear to be the guy that I'm getting to today.
I will be happy if I am playing lineups today.
I don't blame you for that. You should be happy if you play lineups. What else do we have here? Why is Aguilar the flat min on DraftKings? It's a great question. Don't know. Looks good in that price tag. Let's see what else we have. Nothing really. Slow on the questions. 8 minutes to go. I'm going to upload my CSV right now. Feels like something that I should do just to make sure that I don't end up like Adam.
It's a good idea.
Because I think we all know that we don't want to be like Adam.
I have nothing to say back to that.
Depends on what we're talking about, I guess.
Not really.
That's fair. All right. My lineups are in, so I feel pretty comfortable there. Obviously, we're still waiting on the Twins and Mariners lineups, which, because that's a 4-10 start, no surprise that we don't have that yet. Best pick for a hit for beat the streak. Does anybody play that? I would pick the guy that
I'll take Buxton.
Probably decent shout there too. I do have a hits per plate appearance on here. Who do I have as the guys most likely to get a hit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brantley, Merrifield, Victor Reyes, Harold Castro, and Lou Bob. Most hits per plate appearance. So give me Whit Merrifield. There's an answer nobody's going to give you.
That is a wildly horrible answer for that question.
To get a hit?
Out of everybody on this slate, Whit Merrifield is your no questions asked most likely to get a hit.
I didn't say that he was the most likely to get a hit. That was just the guy that I chose.
Okay, well, there's no game theory in beat the streak. Just pick the guy.
Maybe he already picked those other guys. He's one of my top 5 guys for hits per plate appearance. I don't know. What do you want me to do there?
Pick Byron Buxton.
It's fair. But,
Kyle Tucker or Yordan Alvarez or like anybody that isn't Whit Merrifield.
Yeah, but I don't feel like you're thinking about this correctly. I don't get bonus points for getting a double or a home run.
Well, that's why
I'm taking a leadoff hitter against Sam Long.
Yeah, Sam Long, and then the bullpen in the horrible hitter's park.
I don't need him to hit a home run. It's not a horrible hitter's park.
Byron Buxton, I think, is the right answer. Like, he's going to be leading off. He's a good overall hitter.
I don't think that Byron Buxton is the wrong answer.
Overall hitter.
Let me see where I have Buxton here.
I mean, who's leading off for Houston? Altuve?
I don't know. Astros. Yeah, Altuve. Where did that go? Yeah, Altuve.
Yeah, Merrifield's gonna have such a ridiculous game today.
I hope so. I have Brantley ahead of Altuve.
I don't have an issue with Brantley either.
Okay. Well, Brantley's
a much better beat the streak player than DFS player.
I agree. But Merrifield grades out well. Road game, so you get the extra at bat in the 9th too. I think in general you probably want to avoid home teams in this one. You're poo-pooing my answer. It's better than you're making it out to be.
It's fine. It's certainly not where I would have gone.
Well, I don't think beat the streak is your type of game, man. We all saw what happened when you had to do stuff like Thrive. You're trying to play me in a 150 max. This might go well for you. You want to play me and beat the streak. You're going down.
It's fair. You are better at the games where you can't really make any money and there's no point in being good at them.
Fuck. Shit. I walked right into that. Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Given the choices, I agree. It's steak.
Sushi.
Sal Perez or Buxton, last pay up.
I think my stance is pretty clear here.
What else do we have? Ooh, thoughts on a Gobert fit on the Hawks? I mean, he's what they need. Because
catch lobs.
Sort of. But the key takeaway here is that they need someone to negate a certain tiny point guard. Maybe that can be Onyeka Okongwu, and you don't have to do that. But Gobert is the type of guy that they should get. Denise Richards or Jessica Alba? Why are we comparing those two women?
I don't even know who Denise Richards is. Like, I know the name, but I can't place her.
She used to be married to Sheen.
That's probably why I know the name.
Give me Denise Richards, but pre-Sheen. I don't need what he has.
I'll take Alba just because it's hard to imagine. I still can't picture Denise Richards, but I'm pretty sure my answer is Alba regardless.
It's unquestionably Denise Richards for me. And if I can get Denise Richards from Starship Troopers, that's the one that I want. And I'm in. I need to rewatch that movie. 103, guys. If you don't have your lineups in, you've got 75 seconds. Adam, do you have your lineups in?
Yeah. I don't know what the hell I played, but yeah.
The confidence there was palpable.
I didn't get as many lineups built as I wanted, but whatever.
Guys.
Nothing but 5-man stacks, I can tell you that.
If you're playing Beat the Streak, I hope that you have Whit Merrifield. If you're playing DFS, I hope you have the things that I have and not the things that Adam has. That way you're more likely to win today. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I can tell you at least in a second where I ended up.
Okay, perfect.
Stack-wise. Still a shit ton of Texas. Oh my God, what the hell?
They are my second least exposed team.
Man, this is not good. Texas, Miami, Phillies, Kansas City.
How much Whit Merrifield?
Yeah, Houston White Sox. What is this?
So you faded the Giants, the Twins, the Astros. You have 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm stuck with what I had, but
yeah. Okay. Pitching?
Let me see. I just changed something to see what would happen, but all right, pitching. A lot of Gallon.
Okay.
A lot of Gallon, pretty much faded Garcia. Castillo second, Gray third, Gonzalez, Fiedo, both around 16%, pretty much faded Gibson.
Okay. So we're basically in the same spot, only you chose Gray over Garcia, and I chose Garcia over Gray. Well, like a lot of Gallon, Castillo, light on Gibson. You and I went opposite directions on Garcia and Gray.
Yeah. Did you jam in Miami against Gibson? Because I apparently did that too.
I'm 2x the field.
Okay.
So, sorta.
Actually curious. Hang on. Actually curious to see. So I played like in aggregate, Miami's my second highest on stack, but I'm curious how much of that is
Chisholm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not an insignificant amount.
I'm actually not sure if I want it to be like a ton or to actually have a bunch of Miami stacks. Yeah, I mean I have 36% Chisholm. Okay.
Yeah, that's I have literally on the dot 13.9 to 13.9.
Yeah, no, I just have a lot of Miami though. 23% Aguilar, 36% on Chisholm. I don't even know who else plays for the Marlins. 26% Birdie. Um, 21% Sanchez. I'm kind of just catching names. 17% Avasio Garcia. 11% Miguel Rojas. So yeah, I'm pretty much just all over Miami.
Miami and Texas, the driving forces here for you. That should go great.
Yeah, it's just another losing day of MLB.
Yeah, they happen. Guys, thank you for being here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We got up over that 100 mark, so thank you for that. We got NBA No House Advantage show coming up later, plus late game or main slate MLB contest going on. So get into that stuff. Basketball back tomorrow as well.
Somebody said, I don't understand that he blindly crunched. Yeah, I pretty much never look at what I have until after lock. I'm not changing anything.
Yeah, there's no need to. You're trying to avoid errors. You're not caring what you actually have.
Right, yeah, like if I do have time to look, I'm just looking to make sure that like I don't randomly have 50% of some dude that like isn't playing or something.
The Jaren Jackson corollary.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, guys, thank you for that. PrizePicks, thank you for being the presenting sponsor here. This was MLB Live Before Lock, presented by Stochastic.